Alright, so basically what I did was follow the instructions for this ultimate guide that I was looking up. Essentially, what you do is find out how to create a customized product page for Shopify, and that is going to lead you to documentation, pagefly.io. Feel free to just pause it here if you want to see that. And essentially, you're going to get to this little detail. I didn't read the whole thing, but it basically just shows you how to find your customized templates, things that you'll need to do if you ever want to add a new page. Uh, this actually is the link that I clicked to. So I didn't get deep into this guide, but I recommend it, especially because there's a lot more to it. From there, I checked out the Shopify documentation. Can't remember the exact page I looked at, but in terms of managing template files, uh, I was probably in product liquid because, as you can see up here, my initial issue was basically that my client, who is going to sell stuff, COVID kind of made that a pain for now. But even though he's going to sell stuff, the one thing that he's not going to sell through Shopify is his book. And because of that, we still want to advertise it. But I basically wanted to change the buy on Amazon button from what it initially was, which is like an add to cart that has a lot of programming language functionality to it that I didn't need. Um, so this is my first Loom video, and I honestly don't know how it's going to come out. Don't know if you can even hear my voice right now, and it's probably not helpful that I have music on like a jerk, but again, just testing out this entire process. Build the HTML form. This page right up here basically shows you how to create a template. You'll notice some of the stuff you need, some of the stuff you don't, a lot of the important stuff you can copy. But again, I didn't even read through this entire thing. um, Not sure if I just went to this page afterwards. Place add to cart with a content link. Yeah, I might have just been messing around. But anyway, we're going to get to the heart of what I've been looking up now. I think that's just a duplicate. So, what I did was I first created a template. In basically, this is your HTML, and I made it called product.requires-amazon.liquid. And pretty interesting. In one of the instructions you would read is that you basically were to delete certain information, and you just replace it with the product page section that you're going to have. Just the reason being is like this is like a one-line code. The HTML isn't that important. It's really the section page that's super important. That's really the customization, and that's where it gets tricky. Again, the instructions are one of the other tabs you'll learn, but I basically call this one product-template-requires-amazon.liquid. And again, as you can see, there's a lot of information in here, but when I started, it had about 7 lines of code, and one of these pages instructed you to essentially not use any of it, just delete it. What you do is from the product template liquid, dot liquid, let's see if I have it anywhere over here. Basically, you copy everything that's in here, and then you paste it into here. And really, the only thing that I ended up changing was some of the functionality in the button itself. It started off in like your typical type of nesting, div, span. Actually, there's a div, and then a button, and then a span. But again, the problem with the button is that it was a little above my experience right now in terms of using JavaScript and whatever other logic programming languages that Liquid or Shopify uses. So basically, I wanted to have a button that I only would have clicked on and gone right to Amazon. Now that's pretty simple. If you're to make a link, you just add an attribute target blank that, in a nutshell, would make it open up in a new tab, because typically you're trying to keep users on your website, so you have to make sure to add that attribute. But it wasn't just about taking out code and adding new code. At first, I didn't know what to delete, and I'm really hesitant to delete some of this code, especially because I'm still a new coder. And the last thing I want to do is somehow permanently screw up something on my client's website, because that's just a headache for me, not really so much for them. Um, so what I first did was try to change the button, just by removing a couple classes and like adding a different class. But the problem that I ran into was that when I just added on a link into the span and deleted like whatever text was there, there were still ID attributes and class attributes that made it so that you were doing something by clicking the button. And again, since I don't understand the programming language yet, it was very confusing to know what it was doing without being able to read the code. Because as you can see here, there's a lot of like bracket, percentage signs, programming, like if, then, else, ends, just stuff that I don't know how to do yet. And there's no reason to have to learn it. I mean, coding, sometimes you just do what you need to do and you work around it. Just you add comments at the end, or you add CSS at the end, and sort of specificity-wise will override the other stuff. I wasn't trying to go in here and reinvent the wheel. I was just trying to make a button do something different. But anyway, what I first ended up doing was removing the button and then testing that out. Just testing things with comments, not deleting any code really. Um, and basically what I ended up doing is adding this class called button Amazon. I ended up removing the span too, just because the button, the link rather, required the same size dimensions as the original span or button, something that is big and purple. And as you can see here, this is basically the final product. This right here was originally basically the size of the text, because when you remove all the other class attributes to it, it didn't have this padding. And so basically my first problem was that when I added on the padding, it made this exactly how I wanted it to, but I still had the span behind it. And so it was just like a weird frame border that was almost the same exact thickness as the link itself or the button. So anyway, um, I just commented a lot of this stuff out. Some of it I think I might have deleted, but I wouldn't recommend it. Just comment stuff out because you can always uncomment it later. You'll start to see that there's this like product, single, add to cart, full width. And I'm pretty sure that's somewhere nested within the brackets of the div, the button, the span. A lot of this stuff ends up being functionality that just isn't needed. And this is just kind of like in a nutshell tutorial because I'm really testing out the Loom Chrome plugin too. But once you are trying to test out something, I would test out classically with colors, and luckily that was half of my mission anyway, other than removing functionality and adding the minor functionality of just a link. So anyway, added the class attribute. Now what I'm going to do here is just comment this out because I actually found this cool link. It's this one right here, color converter. Your typical crap, I can't remember what they're called right now. When you have the hex code for, for instance, like FF0022, whatever you would, converting that into RGB is sometimes useful if you're trying to create an opacity where, like you see down here, this is the actual hex code, and the equivalent of this hex code is this down here. The only reason why I converted it through this website right here is because when you hover, you want to have just a signifier that you're doing something just by hovering, and so this is actually the same color, but when you add on that 0.6, it makes it lighter. And so now if I were to save this, kind of wrapping up this experiment in general here, it should be purple, and when you hover over it, it should be sort of like a lavender, just basically the same color. But So that's about it. Let's see how this turned out. Hope we learned something. Thanks for watching.